everybody, and welcome back to the Leeds Lens. We are going to be previewing the biggest game of the season so far for Leeds United. People are saying, is this the biggest game that Leeds United have played in a few years? I don't think that far, I must admit. I think that Stoke game last season I went to and we won 6-0. Was probably a bigger game, but yes, I do agree this is a huge game and definitely the biggest game of the season. We'll talk all about that. We're also going to be talking about a link to a very exciting fullback called Svenson, who currently plays for Borussia Dortmund, and this is getting linked from Build as well, so we'll talk all about that as well. So, has Farke potentially got his summer left back or / right back signing, because he can play both sides, already locked up, and we're only in February? My man's getting a move on. But maybe. So we'll talk all about that as well. And actually, that is where we'll start. But before we get into it, of course, if you could help the channel by dropping a like, subscribe, all that good stuff does massively help the channel. As you've probably seen, the views, if you are a content creator at this moment, which I'm kind of not, I have a job on the side of this. This is kind of like an extra thing. But they are dropping quite in quite a sort of strong way at this moment in time. So, you know, transfers are not on as much. So, you know, if you could help the channel, what I'm saying, by dropping a like, subscribe, all that good stuff, it does help me, boost me in the algorithms, and helps me regain some of the viewership I had just a few days ago. So if you could do that, that would be brilliant. And it's kind of more important than ever, in truth. Jacob says, evening, Scott. Evening to you too, pal. Nice to see you in the chat, bro. Anyway, let's start with this Svensson link, shall we? Then we can talk all about the Forest game coming up as well. So, this was quite a surprise today, actually. So Bild are reporting, and for anyone that doesn't know, actually, Bild are quite a sort of a pretty good German outlet. They're probably, I'd say, at least tier 2, maybe not even tier 1. They're definitely better than the likes of Team Talk and other sort of publications we've got in this country. And they're suggesting that Leeds United have shortlisted Svensson as a potential option for fullback this season, or in the summer transfer window. Of course, it can't be in January now, that's finished. And I must admit, from all accounts, this guy's quite good. I actually, from my last job, we were basically used to cover the Club World Cup a bit, and he obviously played for Dortmund in the Club World Cup, and I was sort of doing a bit of sort of the fantasy side of the Club World Cup, and we sort of zoomed in on him because he was having quite a pretty impressive time with Dortmund. And actually, when I've watched him, and I have watched him a few times because of that, he's quite a good footballer, actually. I do really like him, and I think the thing I like about him as well is when I've watched him, he can actually play left wing back and right wing back, and he does play wing back as well, which is obviously important because I know sort of Bogle's actually adapted to this wing back really, really well, and obviously played at Sheffield United. Goodmanson, I think, was more of a left back, I believe, at Lille, but has obviously adapted to the left wing back role correctly. But I think Leeds United should stick with this sort of 5-back long term, in my personal opinion. And if we're going to do that, actually recruiting people who are left wing backs and right wing backs as opposed to right backs and left backs is probably something, and probably the sort of route Leeds United should be going down. Because I must admit, when we've seen Justin in the sort of wing back role, I don't think he's quite been as good, in my opinion, as Bogle and Goodmanson have. I know he scored in the first game. He played at left wing back, actually, but especially when he's played at right wing back, I don't see him advancing as well, and that's just because he's more of a sort of a right back by trade. He's not bad going forward, but he's more of a right back on trade. Naturally, I think when you've seen Justin in a 5-back system work the best, it's actually been that right centre back role as opposed to one of the right wing back roles. Just because his game he's got better sort of a defensive sort of set standpoint than he has an attacking standpoint. So that's something that I definitely think is a good option. The only thing that I've looked at with Svensson is that apparently it's around about the £30 million mark. Now, we're not going to be paying £30 million for a fullback. I don't think you'd be going for that, in truth. I think if you're probably looking at maybe 20 million euros, which are about £16 million. I think that's the sort of region of where you're going for Svensson. And actually, for someone who can then play left back and right back like Justin can, could be a really, really good option for Leeds United. And actually, as I said, something really exciting to look at. The only slight worry is with it, apparently the Arsenal and Inter Milan are both interested. They're the other clubs interested. Now, Arsenal, obviously, if they made a move, that'd be probably written off. He'd probably go to Arsenal, in truth. But I don't really see Arsenal doing that. They've got loads of defenders, unless they're going to move loads on and move like Louis Skelly, who's not getting much for a game at this moment, Ben White, who's not played tons of football for Arsenal this season as well. I don't really see them making a move. Inter Milan, maybe they obviously do play with a 5-back system, but they've got DeMarco, DeMarco, and who's the other lad that plays at right wing back? Dumfries, obviously, for Inter Milan as well. So 2 really good full-backs. So actually, if Svensson wanted sort of first-team football, and maybe you go, well, good, obviously, you have to prove himself, but you would think maybe long-term he might be a better solution than Gabriel Goodmanson. I'm not being saying he's awful, but I think maybe that's the next progression of a player. So I quite like this addition. I think this is something that could be really interesting. And it obviously coming from the German league, we've had quite a success with the German league recently. Like if you look at sort of Drew Everything for the price point, it's been a really good signing. Obviously, Tanaka's wasn't in the Bundesliga, but he was in Bundesliga 2. Again, came from Germany, been a really good signing. And we know sort of Daniel Farke naturally has a really good scouting network in Germany. He's quite sort of clued up on that naturally with his sort of managing there with obviously Mönchengladbach and of course being German himself. So I do think that this is a market that we should explore more actually. And yeah, I look at this and I think this is a really, really nice addition if we could get this over the line, and someone that I actually think that Leeds United should look at doing in the summer. I think this is a good one. I do. Gibbs-White says, evening Scott, roll on tomorrow, Leeds victory 2-1. Jacob says, would he come in as backup or competition for Gabby? Is he any good? Haven't watched him before. I've watched him, and I think he's pretty good actually. And he's quite attacking as well. He can advance quite well in the pitch. I would imagine he comes in as first choice, but I could be wrong. But it would be unfair on Gabby really to drop him because he's had such a good season. But he definitely comes in as definite competition as opposed to a second choice to Gabby for sure. David says Svensson sounds very much a Farke kind of wing back. Swedish as well, same as Goodmanson. Yeah, he is Swedish, and yeah, he is. He's someone that, as I said, could offer quite a bit. I think in attacking third. And as I said, when I've watched him, I've thought he's quite a good player, and he was getting picked actually a lot, as I said, when we were doing this sort of fantasy game for Club World Cup because of his sort of attacking numbers were quite decent. The Jarl says he can play centre midfield as well. I didn't know that actually, but yeah, that's another positive as well if he can. I did not know that, I must admit. Ollie says evening. Random feeling earlier. Barry Douglas would have been great if he played in the back 3/5. Oh well, would have done well in the system. Yeah, I agree actually, because if you looked at sort of Douglas's best output it was for Wolves, wasn't it, when he was playing in that Nuno team actually that was a back five team. And he broke, obviously, the championship record, didn't he, that season, before we bought him for the most assists. Then we moved to left-back. He just didn't have the sort of defensive capabilities. I don't think he ever had the pace as well, Barry Douglas, to sort of play that role. Funny with Barry Douglas, actually, when he first came to the club, I don't know if people thought this, I remember thinking, oh my God, what a signing this is. And it kind of just faded off for him. Like, he did have a bit of a wand of a left foot, didn't he? But he was just a bit sort of at times slow and sluggish in possession. But no doubt he had a really sort of wand of a left foot. Carl says, evening, Scott, pal, hopefully we get back on track tomorrow night. I'm going for 3-1 Leeds. All Leeds, aren't we? Let's move on to the Forest game anyway, because truthfully, that's going to be the main part of the show tonight. And as I said in the intro, for me, this is the biggest game of the season. I don't want to sort of underestimate how big of a game this is. I will be absolutely buzzing on stream tomorrow night after the game if Leeds United have got the victory of the line, and equally as horrendously terrified of what's going to happen for Leeds United if we don't get the 3 points tomorrow. I honestly think it's an absolutely huge game. I do think it is decision defining. I do think it genuinely could swing the scale. I think if we win and we get that big jump on Forest, and potentially we'll talk about the Burnley sort of West Ham and the implications of that as well, but if that goes our way, you could be looking at an unbelievable weekend in this fight for Leeds United to stay up. We've always said, really, Leeds United are either going to need sort of maybe 3 wins, 5 draws, or 4 wins, 2 draws, something like that. They both get every to 40 points, of course. And if Leeds United could win tomorrow against Forest, that would mean that they need 2 more wins, ideally in 5 draws. And I would expect Leeds United to get that if they do win tomorrow, because you're looking at Wolves and Burnley at home. I'm thinking Leeds United are going to win them games. Not write them off, but I think Leeds United will win them games. So then you're looking around going, I think we've been quite good at getting draws recently, staying in games. Could you even go to like a Villa and get a draw there? We've seen Everton go there and win recently. We've seen Brentford go there and win recently. What I'm saying is I do think that sort of points can be picked up for sure going forward. I really do. So yeah, huge game, huge game. And I think even on a sort of, if you remove the points, even on a sort of mentality basis and a sort of psychological basis, it's a huge game tomorrow. It really, really is. And also, you've got to bear in mind as well, naturally, that obviously Burnley are playing against West Ham at the weekend as well. And I expect West Ham to win that game. So if they win that game, we're going to need to obviously match that to keep this 6-point gap at this moment in time that we've got. And then, of course, because of that, we're going to need to win against Nottingham Forest. There's no doubt about that. But, as I said, if it all goes well, you never know. The only thing that I've been sort of worried about with this Forest game, they're looking into it, their actual away stats are quite good. Nottingham Forest, they've actually, which surprised me when I was looking into it, they've actually picked up more away points this season than they have at home. Now, admittedly, they've played, I think, a game, maybe more. No, they've played the exact same, actually, both played 12. But they've picked up 14 points away from home, and they've picked up 12 points at home. And actually, since Dyche has come in, they've won 3 away games, and obviously they've won the last 2 away games as well. With him in charge, they got the 2-0 victory at, of course, Forest, and then they had the victory as well somewhere else. I can't remember where else, but 2 other victories. Oh, West Ham, of course, the 2-1 victory at West Ham. So they have been in quite decent form away from home. And obviously that smashing win as well against Liverpool, which I'm sure you all remember in that sort of crazy game. So I don't think this is going to be quite as easy as everyone's making out it will be. I do think Forest have got a really good squad. I do think they've got a really good midfield. Obviously, we're missing sort of Stack in there as well, which I think will be a huge miss. Because I said, when you look at the makeup of the Forest team and where their strengths are, you do look at that midfield, in my opinion. Like, you look at Elliot Anderson, you look at Morgan Gibbs-White, and you look at Sangare as a midfield three, and I think that's really strong. I really do. So I think you need to stop. If you're going to stop Forest, you need to stop that midfield clicking and getting into the rhythm of the game. But if you don't do, you can quite easily lose the game just by sort of not getting the dominance in the midfield. I don't think Dyche is helping their team, if I'm being totally honest, and I don't know if there will be any Forest fans watching, but I don't think he is. I don't think he's the right coach for that group of players. I didn't think it when they appointed him, but there's no doubt he is quite good at making a team resolute and staying in games. And of course, sort of maybe stopping him conceding goals and set piece and stuff like that. That's the things you always sort of associate Dyche with. The only thing I will say to all that is, I was looking through the Forest team today as well. They're not a team actually blessed with loads and loads of height. I think they're a team that actually, I know Dyche's the manager, and I know you'd associate Dyche teams with not really conceding from set pieces and you'd being quite strong on set pieces. But actually, outside of maybe Sangare and Mikolenkovic, the centre back, I don't think they've got loads of height. Marilo's quite small for a centre back, of course. Luca, if he plays, is 6'7", so maybe he'll start and obviously help with that. But when you're looking at Leeds United in the back three system, if Biol is back especially, you've got Strauch in there, you've got Roden in there, you've got Biol in there, you've got Calvert-Lewin in there. That's a big team, people. That's a really big team. And I think we should be able to dominate set-piece situations if all them players are in the team. I really think we could. And I do think that's an avenue for Leeds United to sort of get this Forest team. I would be definitely, if I'm Daniel Farke, talking about set-pieces in the lead up to this game, in terms of that's one of the ways that we can sort of benefit against this Forest team. Because as I said, I know Dyche is obviously naturally built towards a sort of defensive structure, and you'd think he'd be good on set pieces, but you can't beat just pure physicality, and you can't beat raw height, and that is something for sure that we have. So yeah, I do think that's I don't think that's a bad option for Leeds, actually. Farke out if we lose? Absolutely not, mate. Stack, a big miss. Hopefully Longstaff will set up. Yeah, he's the one I would go with. I think there's a conversation of how we should set up. I'm actually wondering in the setup, though, if you should go with a 3-4-3. That's what I would like to see in this game. I would like to see a bit more attacking quality on the pitch. I would like to see maybe Buonanotte get into this sort of starting 11. I'd like to see Aronson stay in there as well. So for me, I'd be going to sort of a, maybe, it depends how you look at it. You could look at it as a 3-5-2 and then play sort of Aronson your midfield three. And then, of course, sort of Buonanotte off your number 9. Or you could look at it in more of a 3-4-3 setup. But either so, and it depends obviously how you're playing in possession, so out of possession. But either so, that's the sort of lineup I'd like to see. And then if you're going to do that, maybe you don't play Longstaff and maybe you play Gruev in the midfield too with Ampadu in there as you sort of pivot in sixes either way. So look, I think there's a number of options in this game, but I would like Leeds United to go at this team because I do think they are a bit vulnerable, Forest, even though from what I've said about sort of the results. I also think, to be fair, even if you look back at their results, and we've talked really highly of their results, and obviously they've won the last 2, if you actually watch their games, though, they haven't been great. Like, they don't look great. Like, I'm sure a lot of us watched that sort of, then when they beat sort of West Ham 2-1, and none of us were watching really impressed. Like, they won the game and fair play to them, but it wasn't like a really dominant sort of performance, and I don't think you're going to get that with Dyche at all. And part of me thinks that he might even come to Ellen Road and play for a 0-0, if I'm being totally honest. So that's, again, that might benefit into a Buonanotte situation, but we'll see. Oh, this is in terms of lineup. I can see Gruev and Ampadu in the middle with Okafor and Aronson behind DCL. Not necessarily what I want, but I can see Daniel Farke going for it. I'm feeling a 3 or 4-1 Leeds. Quite optimistic. Wow, I didn't expect that, Ollie, because not that you're usually reservative, but I didn't think you'd be going 4-1. For me, in terms of score prediction, I'm kind of at a 2-1 at this moment. That's kind of where I think. I don't think there'll be tons of goals in it. I think it will be tight. I don't expect the floodgates to open for Leeds and we're going to score a bag full of goals because I don't think Forest concede too many goals. And actually, again, when you look through the Forest team, actually defensively, they're usually quite strong. And again, that's the Sean Dyche effect. But to be fair, they were quite strong under Nuno when he was there last season as well. I think Sells pick up the Golden Glove. That's also something to mention, by the way. He potentially is out. So, you know, it could be a thing as well. This could be the worst or best weekend of the year, 100%, mate. As I said, if you win on Friday, it's always that feeling, it going into the rest of the weekend about sort of where we could be and sort of how the league could progress. And even if then West Ham go and win, which I expect they'll do, at least you can have your feet up watching the game, which would be nice. I will be going 4-3-3 for this game. I wouldn't do that in truth. This game with either Nonto or Buonanotte as a right wing, on Okafor on the left, need to be very attacking this game against a low block. I agree, and as I said, I would maybe add an extra attacking body in there. I wouldn't go to a back four, though. We haven't played a back four for weeks. We're playing the biggest game of the season. We still have only lost 2 out of 13 playing this formation. Because what we definitely don't want to do, look, we want to win this game tomorrow, of course we do. We can't lose it, though. We really cannot lose the game. It's an absolute mess if we lose it. A draw's pretty crap, but it's not absolutely devastating. But we can't lose it. And I think going to a 4-3, I would be risking that. I'd also be worried about where you're going to play centre-back-wise. Like, you're going to go with Rodon and Stroud maybe there too. But if you're going to do that, why wouldn't you play? You'd surely try to get Biol in. So for me, as I said, I would stick to the back 3. I also think, as I said, you get the benefit of your back 3 from set pieces then. We've got 3 big centre-backs on with Calvert-Lewin as well. And I do think that's an area we can get at Nottingham Forest. Gibbs-White says, it's the hope that kills you. When we go for it, we are a handful for anyone. Farke set the team to play on the front foot. Farke set the team to play on the front foot. I do agree with that, and I don't think we should be reserved in the game. I just don't think we should play a back 5. Watched them against Palace on Sunday. Anderson completely dictated the game and was, in my opinion, man of the match. The obvious choice should be on the plane this summer. Yeah, I agree. I think Anderson's a fantastic midfielder, and I think the clubs that are going to be linked with him in the summer, like I know Man United, but they are linked. Man City are linked. All the big clubs are linked to Anderson, and they're linked with him for a reason. Like, the guy's a fantastic footballer. He'll probably go for 70 million plus this summer. So he's a great player, really is. And what a sign that was from Newcastle, to be fair to them. And obviously Gibbs-White, we know, has got quality as well. Possibly Angus Gunn starts in net for Forest. Puts 4 in against him in the playoffs semi-final. We did. The only thing with that is, mate, I think they'll probably put Ortega in goal. But yeah. SLY says, does Bornau start? I think he might do. It depends if BL's back injured, mate. Back fit, should I say. But I do think BL will be back. Forest signed Ortega, so if Sells is injured, it'll be him in goal, not Goon, I'd imagine. The other thing with Ortega, by the way, and I haven't seen this online much, because I think obviously everyone's quite disappointed that Leeds maybe didn't pursue the idea of getting sort of Stefan Ortega in. Ortega, when I've watched him, he's dodgy on set pieces. I think he's a good sort of ball-playing goalkeeper. I think he's very good on the ball. And I think he's quite a decent shot stopper. I think if you put the ball in his head from a corner, he's worrying and he's flapping like we've seen keepers at Leeds United do. I think that's the sort of keeper he is. I don't think he's that good at that. So again, if we're looking at how we're going to dominate the game, if sort of Sells is missing and obviously Ortega's playing goal, I'd be putting corners straight on top of his head, personally. I saw earlier that Brentford at home in March has been confirmed for 8 p.m. on the Saturday. Perfect. Is that true, mate? That's really good news. Jacob says, I don't mind playing a 5 at the back, but style of play needs to be attacking. Yeah, I agree. And also, the thing is with tomorrow night as well is we're playing one of the weaker teams in the league. They haven't been that great. I know the results have been pretty good, but they haven't been that great in terms of performance levels. And we've got the crowd behind us. Go on the front foot, get the crowd involved, and get an early goal. And I'm telling you, we could then go on and win comfortably, potentially, because the crowd will carry you along the way then. Put pressure on the away team, etc. So I agree with you. I think we should come out fast. I liked the way we came out against Chelsea. I thought that was perfect. And I think, as Jacobs I think is about to say, Friday nights always seem like you've got to be on the front foot and get teams. Like, even when we had our most success against Liverpool, it was when we were on the front foot in that second half. I know obviously they started to slot in the low block and they thought the game was done at 2-0. But again, I think that was a real positive for Leeds when we actually went at teams. Friday night feels like the perfect slot for these games with Ellen Road and the lights. I know, if I was a Forest fan, I'd be cacking myself about this game. If it was at Forest, I'd be cacking it. But I think if at Ellen Road, I think we've got every chance we're going to win tomorrow. And as I said, I am leaning towards a Leeds United victory as opposed to a sort of Forest victory. I'd be surprised if we lost tomorrow. We might do, but I'd be surprised. But yeah, how will it all wrap up this weekend? Because obviously, as I said, we're not the only sort of big clash this weekend. And the other big clash is obviously Burnley versus West Ham, which is in a roundabout way is almost as important as our game. Like, if someone said to me right now, you'd probably take a Forest draw and Burnley and sort of West Ham lose, probably take that, to be honest. So that's maybe as important. But that's something you've got to bear in mind with all this, because obviously, naturally, for me, it's Burnley going to be going down. So for me, it's kind of us versus West Ham. I talked to my boss today as well, and he was sort of saying the same thing. I know Forest are there. I don't think they'll drop that. I think they've got far too much quality. So I do find it myself constantly feeling like it's us versus West Ham. So because of that, we've got to naturally look at their results, and they've got a good game this weekend. A game, as I said, you'd expect them to win, especially based on the performance levels of Burnley recently, although they have been decent at home. So we've got to bear that in mind. We've got to bear that in mind. Did you see that we're apparently rejected a bid for Meslier from Besiktas? I'm getting a worrying feeling he'll be back in the squad. Why would they reject a bid and lose him on a free instead? I'm not sure, Ollie. I did see something going on about Meslier, but I don't know if that's how true that is. I believe the Turkish league is still the Turkish transfer window is still open, I believe. But it seems unlikely that we reject a bid from Elliot, unless they expect they're going to get more money. I don't know. Burnley are hard to beat at home. Palace are going to struggle even with Strand Larsen. Yeah, Burnley are. Look, Burnley are not fantastic. They're not an awful team, especially at home. They're terrible away, but not awful at home. Because they've got a draw with Spurs recently. They've had a draw with Man United, both 2-2. So they can put up a fight at home, Burnley. And obviously that's what we're hoping against West Ham. My only thing with the West Ham game is, I think if West Ham can find themselves in put together a 60-minute performance like they did against Chelsea, obviously Burnley don't have the quality of Chelsea and won't be able to get back into that game. So I do think you're writing it off at that point, and that will be the end of it. So that's something you've kind of got to bear in mind. Who do you think starts in net tomorrow? It'll start Darlow tomorrow. I'll put it this way. I'd be shocked if Darlow isn't the goalkeeper in tomorrow's game, because I don't think Farke's like a man that likes to change his keepers week in, week out. And he's made one mistake, Darlow, so far. I know there's obviously Sheffield Wednesday mistake, but I mean, since he's become first choice, he's made one mistake. So for me, it'll be Darlow. I'm quite convinced of it. I can't see Burnley winning. Better at turf more than away, but they look vulnerable defensively and have nothing going forward. Can see where West Ham win. I agree, Ollie. I think it's a West Ham win for sure, to be honest. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up the show there, people. Bit of a shorter show today, but I hope you've enjoyed it as always. Obviously, we will be back tomorrow, straight after the game, to discuss Forest versus West Ham, Leeds United versus Nottingham Forest, which obviously will be the biggest game of the season. So fingers crossed, cross your toes, cross your eyes, cross your arms, cross your neck, cross your head, cross everything, that Leeds United can get the job done tomorrow. I'll get into some last comments and then we will wrap it up there. Sebastian says, when was the last time we have lost under the lights? Let's stay positive. Oh, good question. I'm not sure. Not actually sure. I don't think we lost under the lights at any point since Farke's been at the club, have we? So yeah, I don't know. Besiktas want 1 million. Besiktas want 1 million from Leeds to take him off our hands. Send him for 1 million then. Biol needs to be put straight back in. Such a vital player, clearly seen over the last few games. Yeah, I agree. I'd be straight in the team for me. Burnley will be happy beating a yo-yo club, hence Parker isn't sacked yet. Yeah, I know, it's strange that, because he should have been sacked, shouldn't he, Parker? I mean, they were so bad on Monday. It was honestly horrendous. Anyway, as I said, thanks all for watching as always. I've just seen about 6 or 7 people have just joined. We have been talking about Leeds United now for 2 minutes and 23 seconds. So you're more than welcome to scroll back and watch the rest of the show. We talk all about Svensson. We talk all about the Forest game. And there's quite a bit to get into. But other than that, I will see you all later, everybody. Thanks for watching. And I will see you tomorrow night.